We soon will be having to open the lines.
Yeah.
But I want you to speak to the CBI program. I know that you went all the way to Singapore, and I know that you have been very much on board in terms of the reform of the CBI program. Now, a number of other countries in the region want to come on board with the CBI program. And while we were in Dominica at the OECS heads, that issue came up. And the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, mentioned that, of course, now you have more competitors in the ring. And so therefore, one of the things is that we might be tempted to lower the price and so on. Of course, when you have competition and so, it drives prices down and you cannot afford to have your citizenship sold like black pudding on the market and that sort of thing. I think that those are the words that sometimes that he uses. But we are doing some reforms with our program. What are those reforms intended to do, and why those reforms are necessary?
We say, quite correctly, that the Citizenship by Investment program that Senke says is the oldest in the world. How it is structured, and we date it back to 1984. I liken it then to a situation where you had investors who had come to St. Kitts and Nevis, and at the industrial site in particular, we had certain of the factory owners were seen as being part of our community. They send their trucks, buses around the island to pick up young women to come and work in the factories. The 200, 300 of them, they contributed to our local sports and so on. And over time, because of the investments in building factories, and part of the work that they did, my basis for coming to that point is that they were seen as being part of us, economic citizens. Over time, it has been changed a bit, that people who bought properties here in St. Kitts and Nevis that had, as it was, a value of a certain level to encourage economic activity, give people work, jobs in construction, and having constructed afterwards in services, various services, whether landscaping or maid services, cooks and so on. This contributed to economic activity. So the idea of having citizenship in this way, in terms of assisting us in development, in terms of economic activity, was seen as very valued. We Kittitians, we believe in our country, and this would help us to grow. I think that what happened to us is that over time we found other ways to encourage economic development, economic activity. And one way in particular, once we had decided to close the sugar industry, was to see how this could assist us to create economic activity for those who would be displaced from the sugar industry. And so the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation was funded. We're here now, instead of a real estate option, purchasing property to encourage things, now you can make a contribution to the fund to help those who had been displaced to be trained, to do alternative means of employment.
That contribution is $250,000
US dollars. And that caught on around the world, where in the global economy, certain peoples needed certain travel documents to assist them to move around, have more than one travel documents. Our travel document through our citizenship program became very attractive because the Schengen countries in Europe, 27 European countries, where we were able to go visa-free.
Yes.
You did not need a visa. So if I'm a Russian billionaire, millionaire, that's much money they can.
Yes.
You may not get a visa to go to Europe, but you had a St. Kitts Nevis passport.
Right.
You went there for 6 months or more without a visa.
Yes.
And so it was attractive. 130 countries worldwide. You can go to without a passport without needing a visa. So it became attractive, and so it became very thing. And over time, the whole process of promoting and making our program expand became such that the flood, as it was, people wanted to take advantage of being a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, made our system top heavy in more than one way. And also, we started cutting corners. The types of fail-safe protection to protect our citizenship and protect our program were not always maintained. And so we would know that last year, May, the United States government accused the St. Kitts Nevis program of harboring illicit actors. People were using cover of our passport to do funny things. Today we can well understand what that means with ISIS and so on around. And so the United States issued a warning that was damaging for St. Kitts Nevis and for the program. In November 22nd to be exact, the Canadians followed suit and withdrew visa-free access to Canada. This also damaged the program, our reputation as being a reputable country worldwide. And so that when we came into office in February, we met a situation where the US, the Canadians, our close partners internationally, regionally, who are in this program, the US, Canada, the UK, the EU, were all looking at us in a very bad light. And the program was stuttering. As a matter of fact, at the time, the past Prime Minister had more or less stopped signing certificates of registration because there was this problem. And so our initial concern coming into office was how could we restore confidence with the US, the Canadians, the British, and the EU. We met regularly with the United States Embassy, the Canadians, High Commission, Prime Minister Harris and myself. We went to Europe, to England, and met with the British, and we worked very hard to restore, as it was, that relationship, that we were committed to make the program clean, and we do the proper things. And clean by which, if someone, say, from a Middle Eastern country would apply for citizenship, we would have to do, and we did due diligence, check what is your background. Are you connected to the government of a rogue state? Are you involved in some sort of terrorist organization? So you went and got international due diligence companies to do a background check. And there were very stringent ways in which you made sure that who was applying to be a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis were reputable and would uphold, as it was, the tenets and values of our citizenship. And so we spent a lot of time in reforming that and working through that. We went to Parliament and we gave the minister responsible for the CBI the authority to suspend, to block, to stop any country who we felt citizens from that country had shown that they were involved in terrorism or any form of illicit actions. And so that's one legislative thing that we did at one time. At the same time, we also have been working very hard to have those who are involved in the program, whether it is the service providers who attract those applicants, the developers who do real estate projects that give people work and who add the economic activity here. There are lawyers involved. And so there are a number of different stakeholders who depend on the programs to help us in our small developing country. And the question is, how can we manage that the program is clean, is done properly, and does not in any way affect it. No. And so we have also been crafting, we have tabled and had a first reading of what we have an escrow bill.
Yes.
But we are looking at other things to strengthen and bolster the program. We'll be looking at what developers do. Are they producing the types of units and properties that give the sort of value that we advertise that we do? We'll be looking at other things as well to ensure that the program is protected. That it gives credit to the country and that we can all be proud of it.
Sure.